Welcome to another episode of the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. Today's episode is a truly special one. We're honored to be joined by Curtis Pride, former Major League Baseball outfielder, trailblazer, and an incredible ambassador not only for the game of baseball, but for people with disabilities across the world. Born deaf, Curtis defied the odds and carved out an inspiring career in the big leagues, playing more than 420 games across multiple teams. He went on to serve as Major League Baseball's ambassador for inclusion, using his platform to promote acceptance, accessibility, and inclusion for all. He has been a dedicated partner of PBATS through the Ability Transcends Challenges program, helping to inspire the next generation of athletes, athletic trainers, and advocates. Today, Curtis joins Neil Romano to talk about his powerful new book, I Felt the Cheers, The Remarkable Silent Life of Curtis Pride. Together, they dive into his journey, the challenges he faced, the people who helped shape him, and the impact Curtis continues to make both on and off the baseball field. Enjoy the show.
Let me just start by saying I'm here today with Curtis Pride, 21-year baseball player, a good friend of mine, and a really good friend of the Professional Baseball Athletic Trainers Society over many, many years. Curtis, one of the things that happens is once in a while you get a guy who's a friend of yours that writes a book. And I was just saying to Curtis, thank you for writing a good book. Because this is truly an excellent book. And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Curtis, you wrote a book entitled, I Felt the Cheers, The Remarkable Silent Life of Curtis Pride. By the way, the book is a foreword by Cal Ripken, which demonstrates the high regard that many, many, many great ball players feel for Curtis and his great career. Not just because he was a player who happened to be deaf, but because he was a darn good player. All of that means a great deal. Curtis, let me start off by, first of all, thanking you for being here. But let's start by saying, how did you come up with the title of this book?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on your podcast. And I'm excited to, share my story. And now, while I was talking to my agent, I was thinking about the title of the book. And we felt what happened, what I experienced in Montreal when I got my first major league hit. And I think that was a good starting point for my career because I actually felt the cheers. And it was as though it was just an incredible emotional experience for me. So we thought I Felt the Cheers would be the perfect title for my book.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, because you do go into great depth about your first hit. And that's a remarkable piece because you didn't even know what was going on in terms of people cheering until someone told you. So that's interesting. Let me start off by let's start pretty early. While this book is about baseball and being a baseball player, in large part, it's really a book about success and failure, moving forward. What's in your mind and, all of this, 21-year career is not a joke. That's a lot of years. But what's the main ingredient to moving forward for you? What motivated you? What moved you forward in your career when throughout the book, there's so many failures as well as successes. There's so many people that say no to someone, especially someone with a disability. What motivate?
Well, I did it was easy for me because there were some times I feel like quitting, but I did because I believe in myself and I had faith in myself that I can achieve my dream of playing major leagues. But I just have to work hard, come on to it, and stay focused and not worry about what other people say, that will think about me. Will that allow people to place limitations on me, and I just have to stay focused on myself and do the best I can And fortunately, it works out for me. But I think that was the bigger thing is just always keep believing yourself. I mean, it's easy for people to walk away or quit with things on going well for you. So it's just a matter of burying down and have the faith that if you work hard, good things will happen.
You know, one of the things that really struck me throughout this whole book is the absolute love and dedication from your family. How much did your mom and dad, who you talk about extensively in this book, how much did they mean in your career? How much did they mean in your life?
My parents meant a lot to me. They basically did everything for me. They made sure I had all the restorative tools in order to be successful in life. They spent a lot of time with me, especially my mom. She spent a lot of time with me, on my academic side, on my speech, vocabulary. She knew how important it was for me because of my hearing disability to learn how to talk. My dad has been incredible, support for me in athletic. The one thing that my parents never treated me differently from my sisters who have no disability, and they try to create an environment where that would not be given a special treatment, and they encouraged me to try things, or even many different things, even when failure was possible, because you would never know what you keep being good at until you try. And they have always pushed me to be the best, best version of myself.
You know, it's interesting throughout the book you mentioned about other people that you have had the I'll say the blessing of being able to influence and help them, understand they could get beyond their disability. I know you and I worked on a program where we did a special baseball cards that were involved to help people understand that people with disabilities, there were some in baseball and they're very valuable. Explain to me how you always took the time to talk to young people who wanted to speak to you about their disability. And, tell me something about that. Tell me why you felt that was important for you to do.
Well, I felt it's important for me because of my disabilities, what I've gone through, kids making fun of me, dealing with different adversity and obstacles, and be able to reach my dream, and I can relate to kids with disabilities, they basically looked up to me, and they were inspired by what I had done, and I felt that it was my duty to help them, achieve their dreams, to encourage them to go after their goals. I've had a lot of support growing up. I've had many, people, my family, friends, coaches, teachers that helped me become the person I am today. And now I want to pay back to the community and be able to help, especially children with the disabilities, to be able to help them, encourage them to go after their dreams, their goals.
During the course of this, you've said twice, you've used the word goals. And in your book, you were very, very pointed about saying you have to have goals. Why, when you're a young guy trying to go up in baseball, do you have to have goals? You would think, well, what you have to do is be able to hit the curveball. But explain the kinds of goals that made it happen for you.
Well, when I was in seventh grade, I just made a list of 15 goals, whether it be a long-term goals or short-term goals. It'd be anything like I want to score a million points on a video game, or I want to catch a 10-pound largemouth bass. I want to play Major League Baseball. I want to go to college, playing college basketball. You want to get married, you have a family. So all those kind of goals. And I actually wrote them down, and I think it was just a way of, it's like a checklist for me to really focus on. And, there has been a study that was just done on people, making goals for themselves. If you actually write down the list of goals you have a 40% chance of achieving them if you actually write it down on a piece of paper. And I accomplished almost all of my goals except for catch a 10-pound bass. But it really helped me stay focused and stay on the track. And
You've Curtis, you've got time to catch the bass. Trust me. You'll catch a 10-pound bass.
plenty of time.
You got plenty of time. It's interesting because I think that's a tremendous lesson. By the way, that's one of the things I want to say about this book. I mean, anybody should buy this for a son, a grandson, a child, a member of their family who needs to set goals, who needs to understand the power, of positive thinking and supporting people, but also setting goals. You also said something in this book that struck me. And Curtis, I've been around a bit. And when you used the phrase, the strength of compensating for weakness, that struck me. I made a copy of that and I put it on my computer so I could read it every day. What did you mean? You're a baseball player. What weaknesses did you compensate for with strength?
Well, not because of my lack of hearing, and I always trying to take advantage of when you lose one sense, your other senses tend to increase. But because of my lack of hearing, my other senses increases, so I have a burning anticipation on the field. And I look for a lot of the little things that most hearing people would, when I would think about it, would take for granted. For example, when I'm on the base path, I always look for the shadow on the ground. That people don't even think about it. So it's just a way of telling me what's going on with the infielders behind me, and I can see the shadow moving if they're trying to just sneak up on behind me, for an attempt pick off or whatever. But there's a lot of little things, and the body language of the baseball players, I can tell what might be happening. I try to use that to my advantage.
You also said that there were people that didn't think you could succeed because you wouldn't be able to hear the crack of the bat in time in the outfield to be able to move to it. You talked about how you use that as something you learned as a detail.
Yeah, though that I could not hear the crack of the bat, so I trained myself to be able to see, the ball come off the angle, that the ball come off the back, the throwing angle. It gives me an idea of how far and how deep the ball would be hit, or how shallow the ball would be hit. But of course, I have my speed to overcome if I misjudge the balls. I have my speed to overcome my mistakes and then be able to make the play.
That's another interesting thing I found out about you, Curtis, is your speed. Your speed apparently was incredible during your career. But what was really fascinating to me is that, for people who don't know, you played D1 basketball. You played U16 for the United States team soccer internationally. Took a lot of speed. Which one was the most challenging from the point of view, and which one gave you the opportunity to use your speed the most, Curtis?
I would say soccer, because it's a open big field, and I had used my speed a lot. And actually, by the way, soccer was my best sport, better than basketball and baseball. It's a sport that came natural for me. I was able to use my athletic ability on the soccer field. But basketball was more of a challenge because it's a non-stop, fast-paced, moving action, and there's a lot of communication involved. So sometimes they can say to play in second or on defense. Now, if I'm guarding the guy, I'm not going to be able to hear my teammate call his twist. If you want to twist the team, twist your defense. But baseball is a sport that not have a whole lot of communication involved. Like for me as the hitter, it's between me and the pitcher. I'm just totally focused on the pitcher. It's the outfield. We have a very simple rule. Anytime I call for the ball, it's automatically my ball. No matter where I play, if I play left, right, center, and anytime I call for it, it's automatically my ball. There's no you got it or I got it back and forth. So I have to use my judgment to see who's the better position.
One of the things that you're very in this book, which once again I just found just amazing from beginning to end, was you're constantly giving a lot of credit to some very important people in your life in the field of baseball. People who came up, managers and people who gave you opportunities, but more than that, I think, in reading this book, you talk about how they gave you their trust, and in return, that helped you. Explain, talk about some of these people and why they were so important as you were trying to, deal with not just the regular everything everybody has to go through in baseball, up and down, playing, not playing, doing well, not doing well. But how does this impact you as a human being and a person who's a person with a disability? How did that trust impact?
Well, no, there was a couple of managers I played for, Jim Tracy and Steve Swisher, and they both have a huge impact on my life. Where I was with Binghamton, Double A, with the Mets, and Steve Swisher was my manager, and I was on the rise. I was best as move. I was progressing nicely, and then all of a sudden I hit a wall. I reached the lowest point in my baseball career, and I started to struggle a little bit, hitting. And my first girlfriend broke up with me, and they got my teammates, making fun of me, and so all the compound stuff, and just kind of weighed down on me. And I know Steve, and I've talked to Steve about my problem. And Steve, no, I've learned a lot from Steve. He told me, hey, these happen, those you have to stay focused and not allow this, to bother me or distract me. No, so but Steve was very patient. He wanted to see me succeed because he knew I had the talent to play in the major leagues. And we spent a lot of time looking at the cage, is trying to fix my swing. And by the same time, we had such many deep conversations about life. And it was one of those moments I really experienced. Uh, I enjoyed the most. It was that personal relationship that we had. And I will always be grateful for him. Give me the time of the day. Then when I was with Harrisburg, Double A with Jim Tracy, and Jim Tracy took me like as if I was his second son, and he saw the talent I had. And of course, he spent a lot of time with me, teaching me about the hitting stuff. He told me correcting my swing. And after that, I had an incredible season. That went from Double A, got promoted to Triple A, and then Major League all in one season. And now I owe it to Jim Tracy for turning my career around.
It's obvious. It's obvious in your book. These guys are really important. But I wanted to ask you, as important as they were at that juncture in your life, how important were they, and how important was their influence when you then became the manager of the team at Gallaudet? What lessons did you learn that you brought there to a team that was all deaf or hearing impaired?
Well, I played for many different managers. Hall of Fame managers Bobby Cox, Felipe Lou, Mike Socia, Joe Twin, and even Jim Tracy and Steve Swisher. And one thing I've learned, I try to incorporate, many different philosophies, and they make it to one philosophy. And for example, with Bobby Cox, he probably was the best manager I've ever played for, and I saw how he treated his players. He was always honest. He treated everybody equally, no matter if he was a superstar or the 25th man, but he genuinely cares about each individual. It's always asking about your family. It was talked about life, which is more than about baseball, and the fact that he gave a lot of freedom to the players to do their own thing because of the trust he had in his players. And both Felipe and Mike Stoshi, they both have a very similar their philosophy because they love small ball, a lot of hit and run, fun, steal, first and third, and aggressive base running. And, with some trades, these teams, which I learned a lot about life, so I try to incorporate all that and share that life message with my baseball team at Gallatin and try to teach them how to try to prepare them for the hearing world because I know it wasn't easy for me. So I try to teach them, help them, and know what to expect. And so I always tell them not to allow their deafness be an excuse for not succeeding in life. And I always treat my players the same way as I would with the hearing students. So I basically told them to expect special treatment, nothing, just become the best version of themselves. And then when they're ready, when they graduate from college, and they be able to become a very productive member of the society.
It's obvious from your book that you spend most of your time projecting yourself as an athlete, as someone who worked hard, as someone who tried hard, and there is not a single, what can you say, woe is me because because I have a disability. You always spend all of your time in this book, which is just fascinating, talking about what we had talked about before, taking strength from weakness and figuring out how to do that and how to move forward. How important is that? Just as a basic message for other people with disabilities, Curtis.
Well, my mom, when I was a kid, and I remember when I first realized I was different from other kids because the kids were making fun of me, the way I talk, funny thing in my ear and stuff. And I used to come home crying, angry, frustrated. I didn't want to be different. And then my mom told me it was something that I was born with and it's something I have to accept. And then that I got to make the best of my situation. And things happen for a reason. Maybe there was a purpose in my life for being deaf and maybe be like a role model for other people to help other people overcome their disabilities. So that's something I really embrace, be a role model for kids with disabilities because I know what they're going through because I've gone through them myself. So I try to help them, provide guidance, support, positive attitude that anything is possible.
Curtis, I'm gonna tell a little story on you. I remember the first time I met you, and you had agreed to do a public service announcement to help people with disabilities. And I remember working with you and directing you and how you fought for every single word. Like we would do it and you'd want to do it again because you would say, I want this to be clear. And I remember thinking, I've worked with hundreds of athletes in my time doing TV commercials. And they'll give you a couple of minutes. They'll, they'll give you 10, 15 minutes. Let's get this done. Let's get out of here. I remembered you spent 2 hours fighting to get every single word correct. I remember you saying to me, let me see you say it again. You'll say that word again, say it. And then you'd say it back and then you put it together. I remember from that day, we've been friends since that day. And I remember from that day being so impressed that I had never seen anyone work that hard to get something correct. And not only were you working hard to get that correct, but it was for other people. You were doing something for other people. And that's the hardest I ever saw you work on something. So I just think that is reflected in this book. you have just page after page after page reflects that you wanted to be seen as, doing your job appropriately because you cared about the deaf community and about people with disabilities. You wanted to do things because you wanted to prove it could be done. And that, Curtis, is amazing to me because that's what this book is about. And I'm just going to say it again. Anyone as a child, anyone has a friend or someone who is a little trying to figure out how to regroup in life, this is the book to read. This is a book that it's not one of those things, Curtis, in reading it, and I'm not talking to you as my friend. I've known you a long time, but the road up was not an easy road. And there are so many people who would have given up in Montreal, which goes way back to the beginning of, and that's what makes this book absolutely phenomenal for people. And I'm recommending it within the disability community to as many people I can because I think it's just remarkable. I'm going to change subjects for a little bit on you, just if you don't mind. And
There's one thing I would like to add. While I was playing professional baseball, and people are always asking me, "Hey, you have a book?" I said, "What do you mean? Do I have a book?" No, there should be a book about you. I never really thought about it. I said, "Why? Why would there be a book about me?" And because I want to know that, I've had so many countless fans, parents with disability children, just baseball people, and they was just so interested about my life and how I was able to overcome my deafness and how I learned how to speak, talk, the things that I went through. And these people wanted to know about it. And so I thought, why not? Do I be able to point for me to share my life story? And hopefully the people can relate to my story and help them, give them, inspiration, uh, hopefully some kind of guidance, positive encouragement, how to be mentally strong and be able to get through, adversity and overcome. Because there are two reactions for every situation. One, you can either quit, walk away, pound mode, feel sorry for yourself, or second reaction is, okay, I'm going to bear down, I'm going to fight through it, I'm going to have a positive attitude, and I'm going to do the best I can, and whatever happens, and I'm going to have to accept it. So there's a lot of messages I put in my book that I hope to share with the readers that will help them in their lives.
Well, you do that. You truly do that beautifully. Sam, how much time do you have? How much time do you need?
Probably, I would say about 45 minutes total is the longest we go, but we're happy to stay on. It doesn't, whatever you want to do, Neil. We have plenty of time.
Just want to make sure, I have some more questions. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, keep going. Absolutely. Maybe 10, 15 minutes would be good.
Because they always cut it out.
Yeah.
I'm just enjoying seeing Curtis. I just wish we were meeting at a truck stop somewhere to have a hot dog. Well, he'll have a salad.
Yeah.
He doesn't eat poorly.
Nathan.
He eats really good. We'll go to Nathan's. He'll have the fries. Curtis, I want to just, that was wonderful that you put that in there. I'm going to go to two more sections. One section that I think is important to talk to you about is, and I know this is personal, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. You put in your book, May as well. You really did spend a lot of time talking about your mom and dad. Okay? Now, I know that for instance, part of what you told us is that your mom stopped working to take care of Curtis, as a child, to take care of you, to make sure you got the best of everything. You were very specific about your father's influence and your mother's influence. Talk a little bit more about that, because I think that one of the things that we have, especially in the disability community, is there are so many parents that become overwhelmed by having a child with a disability. And it's just so good that in this book, they're role models as much as you're a role model. So talk about that just a little bit.
Yeah. When my parents first found out that I was born deaf, and it was like they felt like the world has crashed, and because they've never had the experience with child with a disability, and so they were worried about what kind of life I would have. So everything was all new, and so my parents made a commitment. They decided, okay, they're going to spend a lot of time researching, talking to the audiologist, medical expert. Even for my dad, when he traveled for his job, he would travel all over the country, and whenever he had a free time, he would go by the deaf organization or the audiologist that he would meet with to try to learn more about how do you raise a deaf child, what's the best type of communication stuff. So there were three different types of communication: ASL, oral communication, and key speech. And so after they did all the research and stuff for several months, so they have come to a conclusion that they felt that oral communication was the best type of communications you had me being enrolled in. And they've joined a different club with other parents who have children with disabilities. And I remember my mom was telling me a story, and she met this wonderful mom whose son was similar to me as far as my hearing, but he was about, I think, 8 or 9 years older than me. And she saw how well he was doing, speaking, be able to fit in with the other kids without a disability. And he went on, he became the first deaf dentist. And it was a very successful story, though. So it gave my parents a hope that, hey, he can do it, because he and I, we both had very similar hearing loss. So if he can do it, then why not me? So they gave my parents some hope. My parents have been my biggest influence. They pushed me. I mean, especially my mom. She worked with me every day on my speech. Even when I come home from my speech therapy, she would continue to work with me. It's a non-stop. But it paid off, and I will never ever forget for all the things that my parents have done for me. I just can't thank them enough.
Yeah, and that comes across because, as you said, so many parents of children with disabilities are overwhelmed, and they really don't know what to do, and it becomes confusing and difficult. But your parents really took the bulls by the horns, and really they looked at you and I always talk about the concept of looking at people for what they can do as opposed to what they can't do. And it's interesting because that's a great saying, but sometimes it's just difficult to do, especially for a parent who's overwhelmed. So I'm glad you talked. I really wanted to talk to you about that because it comes through in your book. And as I said, I think your parents in this book are as inspirational as you most of the time because of the hard work they put in. I'm going to ask you another question, completely out of left field, but as I mentioned before, you played professional baseball. You also played D1 basketball at William and Marion, and you U16 soccer, represented the United States around the world. Curtis, that's. Let's talk Bo Jackson here, okay? Let's talk. Here's a 3-sport guy who got to the top of all three. All right, but favorite sport? I know, is that fair, unfair? Favorite sport of the three, which one is your favorite?
Growing up, I played soccer the most of all three. I mean, I really, truly love playing soccer. It was the sport that I played and practiced most of the time, believe it or not. But as I got older and I started watching college basketball, and I saw how excited it was, especially at the NCAA tournament. And man, that was my dream, to play college basketball and hopefully, get into the NCAA tournament. And I love basketball. I mean, I would play pick a basketball all the time, and I just love the action, fast paced, movie action stuff. And baseball is probably, believe it or not, is probably the sport that practice them least of all three sports, and I never really took baseball. I never really practiced baseball as much until I was in high school, and that's where scouts started to take notice of my athletic ability on the baseball field, my skill set. And I think it was my freshman year. And that's why I started taking more seriously when I made varsity as a freshman. I started, and that's where I realized, okay, I might have something. Baseball could be something that when I first started playing t-ball, I've always wanted to play professional baseball. But as I got older, while I was in high school, I started taking baseball more seriously, and I started practice with my high school coach, Ken Ripperto, and he's been a great help. He helped with my swing, my throwing, everything. I've learned a lot from my high school baseball coach, Ken Ripperto, and he was able to call the scouts and have them, watch me, take notice of my athletic ability on the field. But looking back, I know people expected that I was playing professional soccer, but there was no future at the time here in the U.S. I would have to go overseas to play professional soccer. But no, I'm extremely fortunate with the way my life has turned out. Be able to finally achieve my dream of playing major league in the major leagues, and to be able to experience that for 23 years of professional baseball. And it's something that I would always cherish because in baseball, I met so many wonderful people. If I wasn't successful in baseball, I probably would never met you.
Curtis, that's next part of this question is when you might have to think about if you could pick any one athlete in any of the three sports you mentioned to play next to as a teammate, who would you like that?
That's tough. I mean, if I can name one athlete for each sports, that'd be fine. Okay. I would say basketball, obviously, it would be Michael Jordan. Because I love Michael Jordan. I love his mindset on the court. I had actually had an opportunity to play basketball with him, and it was just an incredible experience. And I watched him, firsthand. And I would regard each other and how, it was just a regular pickup game, but he took it like it was the NBA championship. The way he played, he took it so seriously. I mean, I remember we beat his team. He was so upset and angry about losing to my team. He literally kicked the basketball up in the rafter. I said, wow, man, that's just a game, pickup game, but he hated to lose. So that's why I love Michael Jordan. And in baseball, it's hard to figure out one because there's so many great teammates I played with: Derry Jeter, Vladdy Guerrero, many of the Yankees, like Mariano Rivera. Uh, wow, it's Ray Mattis, Chipper Jones, Size Most, all those guys. But the best part about these guys, they were just a great teammates, and they made me feel like I was part of the team. They treated me like one of the guys, and that was the thing that I appreciated the most. And for soccer, I would say Pele. Now, growing up, I used to watch Pele playing soccer. People were always comparing me to Pele. And then people would say I would be the next Pele, which I thought was the biggest compliment for me. But I just say one person that I have the utmost respect of all athletes is Muhammad Ali. The way he carried himself, probably people idolized him and how he treated everybody.
Well, Curtis, I just want to tell you how proud PBATS is of you, and the fact that you took it upon yourself to be part of our Ability Transcends Challenges campaign. You worked really hard with us. We had the opportunity to affect the lives of a lot of people by explaining your story then, and we are just delighted to support you in, once again, promoting your book, but promoting your ideas, really, Curtis. It's really about who you are as a human being. But your book, the title, I Felt the Cheers, The Remarkable Silent Life of Curtis Pride, is a great book for anyone to read, and we certainly recommend it to everyone. Curtis, thank you for everything. Thank you for all you've done for people with disabilities, and thank you for being a role model for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to share my life story, and hopefully to inspire as many people as possible.
Thank you for listening to the Inside Athletic Training Podcast. For more information about PBATS and athletic training, visit pbats.com. See you next time.